And you have fans that are just like, and I always use Miles Sanders as an example for one end of the spectrum. Good player, but early in his career, not necessarily now, but certainly after his rookie season, you know, I use that term all the time, Jody. You're probably sick of it. Skipping steps. They skipped a bunch of steps with Miles Sanders. This is one of the best running backs in football. Was never close. Is not close. He's not in that category. It's not an insult. He's a good player. He's a good, solid player. It's not an insult. It's just he doesn't belong in the conversation with the best backs in the NFL. And I think
And a good morning, Eagles fans. How are you today? A Tuesday gathering here on Birds 365, show number 301. We had a milestone yesterday at 300. Here come the next 300 coming your way, hopefully over the next year. McMullen and McDonald will be part of your morning routine. Thank you for streaming in with us. J-Mac, I sent you a text yesterday asking you if you found out, got information any which way you were able to do so, that gave further details on the contract that Quistis Tart signed with the Eagles. If you could hit me up with it pretty quick, because I was on WIP last night. I thought maybe something would leak out last night. It did not, correct?
No, I have not seen anything. I texted a few people. It was Juneteenth yesterday, so the league was closed, and they took the day off as well. So generally, these things tend to leak out when they get filed with the union. So yesterday is not a business day. It was very unlikely to happen. We should get it sometime this week. We'll see, how much. I think it is going to be an interesting contract because I've talked about it. The timing tells you it's not going to be big money, but there is room for at least incentives that can make it a little bit more palatable for a veteran player that's kind of proven himself. So this one is kind of interesting to me. It's not going to be 10 million like James Bradbury, but you have this weird disconnect. You have this group that's saying, "Oh, this is a pretty good player." So I'm thinking to myself, when I first saw it, as I said, I'm thinking veteran minimum, this late on the calendar, all that kind of stuff. And then there's other people that say, this is a pretty good player. And, is he holding out for something? Similar to what Steve Nelson did last year and just saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'll wait and wait and wait. Maybe he's going to wait for an injury in training camp. So maybe the Eagles went a little bit higher than I expected. So this one's going to be kind of interesting to me, and I think it'll tell you a lot of what they think of the player. We had some listeners going over, but this is one of the best coverage safeties in football. I'm not a Jaquaski Tart expert, but one of the best coverage safeties in football is not available on June 17th for 1 year, Jody. Simple, it doesn't exist.
All right.
So you have this weird disconnect, and I'm pretty interested to see what the numbers are.
As am I. That's why I asked you. Listen, if you see anything, you might catch it before me. Please do me a favor and just shoot me a text wherever you got it and what the numbers are going to be, because I'm with you. I'm very interested to see what kind of deal it is. I would be willing to bet good money it's just a 1 year deal, that it's not going to be a multi-year deal. The question is how much is in there, how much are incentives that can be reached, won't be reached, and the like. And you're right to point to Steven Nelson last year, who I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, ended up getting $5 million for one season last year. But that's what they got him for, and they got him for right before, even later in the calendar year. They signed him in July of last year. So it's not impossible that a guy can still get multi-millions of dollars, but at this stage, you almost never see a guy get a multi-year deal. So we're looking at 1 year. The question is how much. That's why I'm bringing this up. You and I get a chance to get opinions on our opinions. We come on here on Birds 365, say what we're going to say. I get a chance to share my opinions on WIP as well. And the last couple of days, I've just gotten beat up left and right for my opinion on two moves in Philadelphia. One doesn't concern us much here on Birds 365. That's the John Tortorella signing as the new coach of the Flyers. And the other one is the Jaquiski Tart signing. And I'm not wowed by either one. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, did they screw up by making this move? I don't know that. I don't believe that. But the fact that you in any way, shape, or form question, John, I've been in this town for a long time, 30 plus years. And it used to be that the fans were tougher on the teams, that the team's not doing enough. They're a small market mentality, blah, 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 blah. Now it's become for me more a questioning of the media who generate opinions. Maybe it's because of social media that people can just shoot out a tweet to anything that you tweet in response. We here on Birds 365, of course, have our comment section, and we love our commenters, but some of them of late have not only been nasty, but just in my opinion, way over the top in their evaluation of certain players that have come here. I didn't know this town had become a root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame town.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I've talked about it. A lot more people. I hate to throw everybody in the same bucket because I don't think they are, but
no,
I think there's some that still value objective opinion. But I think that the group that doesn't, the group that thinks, I can't tell you how many times I get criticism from people outside of Philadelphia for being an Eagles fan because I cover the Eagles. In other words, they think I'm an Eagles fan because I cover the team. And these are people from Dallas and the Giants. When I say something bad about the Giants, for instance, which I've said plenty in this offseason, you'll get the Giants fans. So Eagles. I'm like, I don't
just
care.
An Eagle fan.
Yeah. So I get that from outside, and then inside. Yeah, I mean, they're the group that expects cheerleaders and wants cheerleaders has grown, and it continues to grow.
It really has,
and it's depressing. It's depressing for me because that's not our job. And I think if it ever came to the point where it was just all cheerleaders, I think people would actually really dislike it. But I don't know how to stop it other than just do my job the way I usually do my job, and that's give honest opinions on what you think. And there's always players. I always find it interesting, the players that the fan base latches onto and just overrates to a ludicrous degree. And then there are other players who they just dislike to, almost an extreme. I like to call them wing nuts in politics. You got the right and the left wing, just wing nuts. And you have fans that are just like, and I always use Miles Sanders as an example for one end of the spectrum. Good player, but early in his career, not necessarily now, but certainly after his rookie season, I use that term all the time, Jody. You're probably sick of it. Skipping steps. They skipped a bunch of steps with Miles Sanders. Remember, this is one of the best running backs in football. Was never close. Is not close. He's not in that category. It's not an insult. He's a good player. He's a good, solid player. It's not an insult. It's just he doesn't belong in the conversation with the best backs in the NFL, and I think people have seen that. And then there's other guys like poor Nate Gary, who this fan base just. I once put his Pro Football Focus grade up on Twitter one year, which was pretty good early in the season, and at the time, and people just went nuts. It's not even my opinion; it's somebody else's opinion.
Right, you're just passing along someone else's opinion,
and they just went just ballistic because for whatever reason. Nate and Nate was a hard worker, and the coaching staff liked him. And anytime I said, Ken Flajole, if you remember his quote about high-speed internet, he was so smart, he's smarter than him, and blah, blah, blah. And if you put that on there, they're like, they just lost their minds. I don't understand it, but you have that dichotomy. But the cheerleader aspect is depressing to me, Jody. It is literally depressing to me.
And maybe it became more obvious to me because of the last two Eagle acquisitions, both of them defensive backs. You know, I talked up James Bradbury to the Eagles when he was still on the Giants because the reporting was out there. They're trying to trade him. They are way over the cap. They can't sign their rookies. They've got to make cap room before the draft happens, but before they start signing their drafted players. And I believe that reporting, and I got a couple of Giant buddies. So I said, listen, are they going to be able to trade him? Are they going to release him? Is this really what the Giants are going to do? Because I like the player a lot. He's 1 year removed. They were a bad defense last year. The Giants were right there with the Eagles with not getting pressure on the quarterback. I thought Bradbury was still one of the better cornerbacks in the National Football League. And guys like him just don't become available at the time of year that he did. It doesn't happen that way. So I was all over James Bradbury leading up to it. As soon as he gets released, within days, the Eagles get the deal done, get him signed. I was truly excited about that signing for the Philadelphia Eagles. The flip side would be, why would anybody release a player that's as good as you're saying, Jody? How does a guy? Doesn't this mean that he's really not all that good? Aren't you blatantly overrating him? Because I was very big behind the signing. I didn't get any of those. No, nobody came on and said, Jody, there's a reason why he's released. He's not as good as you're saying he is. We want a Giant player? You kidding me? We want a guy who just came from the Giant. Screw the Giant. That's what I used to get from Philadelphia fans when I would go overboard in singing a guy's praises, a move made by Howie Roseman. It's Howie Roseman. It can't be right because it's Howie Roseman. We used to get a lot more of that than the responses that I got yesterday and starting on Sunday on WIP about Jaquiski Tartt. The guy is probably not going to start. There's a reason why they brought Anthony Harris back first. Jaquiski Tartt was available when Anthony Harris re-signed, right, John?
Yes.
But they chose to re-sign Anthony Harris.
Yeah.
And then they waited, and then signed Jaquiski Tartt. So if you thought, he's going to definitely start of Anthony Harris, I don't know that. And for the last several months here on Birds 365, we've been talking about, the Eagles like Marcus Epps better than the fan base likes Marcus Epps. They're going to start.
There's another guy. I should have brought up Marcus Epps. Yeah.
Yeah. And you keep saying that if someone's going to be removed from the starting lineup, it's more likely going to be Harris than Epps. I don't think either one of them's coming out for Jaquiski Tartt.
I think that's the Eagles' hope. I think, and that's how we described it yesterday. I think this is an insurance policy. I think it'll be a legitimate competition in the summer. But I think if the Eagles had their druthers, Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps would be starting, and Kayvon Wallace would all of a sudden show a spark of the ability, the fan base. There's another guy. Should have brought up Kayvon Wallace. They're skipping steps on him. Hopefully he can turn into the third safety, and then maybe Jaquiski Tartt turns into Jonathan Cyprian, as I said, and you say, hey, thanks for the memories. We're going to move in a different direction, because once you get down to the fourth safety, then you start talking about special teams, and that's where Andre Satchare is more valuable. Jared Maiden, if he could push him being on a special teams player. So I said when the signing happened, he might be starting on September 11th, and he might be cut he might not even be in Detroit on September 11th. But, he signed 3 contracts, Jody, right, in San Francisco. So that's pretty good as a player. You give him credit for that. His rookie deal, obviously, is a second-round pick, which is slotted. Then he got an extension, a 2 years, $13 million extension, 2018, after 2018, so 2019 and 2020. And you say, okay, the 49ers like him. Then the third contract, 1 year deal, veteran minimum, 1 year, $1.127 million. the 49ers brought him back. Now, this time, they didn't bring him back. They said, well, we're going to go in a different direction. Last year, they brought him back, the team that knows him the best,
right, at
the veteran minimum. That's why I said it's probably going to be the veteran minimum. Then I got all these people coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, this is a good player. This is good. Well, why the heck is he getting the veteran minimum from the 49ers last year? And then they don't want to bring him back. And that's a pretty good defense, and he's had success for them. And he started 64 games. I mean, people got to think this out.
That's why the devil is going to be in the details of the contract when they eventually do leak out. And forgive me for repeating, because I know we've talked about this before here on Birds 365. It almost always leaks out within 24 hours of an agreement.
Yeah,
why? The agents want it out there. Yeah. They want to show that they did the right thing for their clients or for future clients. Look at a deal that I got for player X. We almost always get the details. We're now 4 days since it first leaked out that at least he was signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a reason why we don't know the details yet, because the deal is not that good. The agent doesn't need the details on this contract out because it doesn't make him look all that good, because he probably signed for the veteran minimum. So if the 49ers weren't even willing to offer him the veteran minimum, if he was moved enough to sign a veteran minimum contract last year, it tells you he likes the team, he likes where he was living, he didn't want to get up and move. Maybe someone else may offer him slightly more, and he said, no, for that kind of an increase, I'm better off staying here with San Francisco. Good team, know the system, my coaches like me. You would think that he at least would have that on the table this year, right? Apparently not, because otherwise he would be back with the 49ers already. I don't get it. With the way some people are talking about this in the fan base, Eagle Nation, you'd think that they'd re-sign Brian Dawkins.
Yeah.
Or that Malcolm Jenkins part 2 is going to happen here in
Philadelphia. I'm thinking San Francisco. I'm thinking they got Ronnie Lott. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't get it. But, I mean, people are hyped up. That's great. That's what the offseason is for, expectations. And, look, I think this Eagles defense is vastly improved, but I think it's going to be vastly improved because of guys like Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, maybe Nakobe Dean the second half of the season can show up and start to be the player he was at Georgia. James Bradbury, as you mentioned, Jody. Those are the potential difference makers that the Eagles added. Can't have a superstar at every position. This is about getting a capable player at safety, as is Anthony Harris for that matter. And you have an insurance policy, all right, who's better? Let him compete. Who's got more left in the tank?
Right, because injuries are going to happen. And then before you know it, you've got your guy coming off the bench, and you're going to have to ask him to come in and hold down the fort. So it's a good signing, smart signing. Howie Roseman doing Howie Roseman things, getting a veteran guy who's been starting for a good team for an inexpensive price. That's a good deal. But listening to some Eagle fans, either on my phone lines on WIP, on my Twitter, or here on our comment feed on Birds 365, a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, Jaquiski Tartt, joining the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll see about that. All right, we're going to get our first time out of the day in. You got McMullen and McDonald, your Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. We will be joined by one Chris Franklin from NJ.com. He's next here on Birds 365.